Since yesterday, the alignment of Venus and Saturn has not been soft, and you must not mistake this energy for a simple emotional mood or a passing heaviness in the air. Something more serious has begun. Something ancient. Something that reaches into the deeper architecture of your heart and starts revealing what has been held together by longing. Fear, guilt, duty, or illusion rather than truth. This is not ordinary relationship tension. This is a karmic bridge trembling beneath your feet. And you must understand what is happening now. Because some people are standing at the center of a love story that has already ended in the soul, even if the body, the routine, or the hope is not yet caught up. The reason this moment feels so sharp is because Venus rules love, value, tenderness, attraction, pleasure, and the ways you bond. Saturn rules truth, maturity, time, consequences, structure, and emotional reality. When these two forces meet in an intense alignment, they do not come together to create fantasy. They come together to test what is real. They come together to expose where you have been overgiving, under-receiving, waiting too long, forgiving too much, or trying to build a future on top of emotional uncertainty. This is the kind of transit that makes the heart stop romanticizing what it already knows. This is the kind of energy that shows you whether the connection you keep carrying can actually cross the bridge into your future, or whether it was only meant to teach you something before the road changed. That is why the emotional atmosphere may have shifted so suddenly since yesterday. You may have felt it without having language for it. A silence that felt louder than words. A strange distance in someone's energy. A moment of sudden clarity that cut through months of confusion. A tenderness that now feels heavy. A bond that once felt faded now feeling difficult to hold. Or perhaps nothing dramatic happened at all on the outside, and yet inside, you began sensing that a chapter was closing. That is how karmic endings often begin. Not always with chaos. Not always with betrayal. Sometimes with a quiet knowing that the bridge you kept standing on can no longer hold the weight of who you are becoming. You may have been in a season of emotional exhaustion for longer than you want to admit. Perhaps you have been carrying someone in your heart long after they stopped carrying you with the same steadiness. Perhaps you have stayed loyal to a story that kept asking you to shrink, wait, doubt yourself, or live on emotional crumbs. Perhaps you told yourself the heaviness meant depth, that the struggle meant destiny, that the inconsistency meant timing was still unfolding. But the universe is not asking you to confuse pain with purpose anymore. Venus and Saturn are not here to flatter your fantasy. They are here to reveal the cost of loving without structure, hoping without evidence, and attaching without reciprocity. And this is why the bridge is the symbol that matters now. Because a bridge is not a home. It is not where you are meant to live forever. It is a passage, a crossing, a structure that allows you to move from one reality to another. Some relationships are bridges. Some loves enter your life, not to remain as your destination, but to carry you across an inner divide. They awaken you. They confront you. They mirror your wounds. They expose your patterns. They teach you what your heart still confuses with love. And when their lesson is complete, the bridge begins to shake. Not because you failed, but because you are no longer meant to stay there. This is a karmic shift. Not just heartbreak, not just disappointment. A karmic shift means a cycle is ending at the level of the soul. A contract is expiring. A lesson is completing. A debt of emotion, longing, repetition, or attachment is being balanced. That is why this energy can feel so heavy even when it is liberating. Release is not always light at first. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like withdrawal. Sometimes it feels like your heart is being asked to let go of the very thing it used to survive. But do not ignore this. The heaviness is not punishment. It is truth gathering weight inside, so that you can no longer pretend not to feel it. What is shifting now is your tolerance for emotional instability. What is shifting now is your willingness to carry people who refuse to meet you in maturity. What is shifting now is the old idea that love must be proven through endurance of pain. Saturn is ending that. Venus is showing you your worth inside that ending. Together, They are teaching you that real love does not require you to abandon your self-respect at the entrance. Real love does not keep you emotionally suspended between hope and hurt. Real love may ask for patience, but it does not ask for self-betrayal. You may feel this in very specific ways. A heaviness in the chest when you think of one person. A tightness in the throat when you want to say what you have been swallowing for months. Sudden tears that seem to rise from nowhere. An unusual fatigue, as though your body is tired of carrying an invisible, emotional load. Restlessness at night. Vivid dreams. A strange calm after crying. A sense that your spirit already knows what your mind is still negotiating. You may feel less interested in chasing explanations and more drawn toward silence. You may notice that what once triggered panic is now being met with observation. That is not numbness. That is the beginning of release. For some, this transit brings the realization that the person you loved was real, but the future you imagined with them was not. For others, it reveals that the connection did have meaning, but meaning is not always permission to continue. And that distinction matters. Not every intense bond is meant to become permanent. Not every soulmate is a life partner. Not every spiritual connection is healthy simply because it feels powerful. Some bonds arrive like storms to wake you up, not to build a house in your life. Venus and Saturn are separating intensity from alignment. They are asking a question many people avoid for far too long. Does this connection support your future? Or does it only keep you emotionally occupied? This same energy also reaches into your money story, because Venus is not only about love. Venus is also about value, receiving, security, self-worth, and the quality of what you allow into your life. When Venus is pressured by Saturn, the universe often reveals where emotional instability has been connected to financial instability. Maybe you have been overgiving in relationships and underinvesting in yourself. Maybe heartbreak has made you careless with money, impulsive with spending, avoidant about planning, or too willing to rescue others at your own expense. Maybe you have been accepting less in work because some deeper part of you got used to proving your worth through sacrifice. This transit does not support that pattern anymore. You are being asked to build value like something sacred. Protect your resources. Be slower with financial decisions made from loneliness, panic, guilt, or emotional fantasy. Notice where you spend to soothe emptiness. Notice where you undercharge, underclaim, or hesitate to receive because part of you still believes love and abundance must be earned through struggle. Saturn brings sobriety here. Venus reminds you that stability is attractive, peace is attractive, self-respect is attractive. And what drains you is no longer worth calling destiny. This is a good time to simplify. To budget honestly. To say no to what weakens your foundation. To choose long-term security over temporary emotional sedation. And the body will speak just as loudly as the heart if you listen. Under a transit like this, sleep patterns can shift. You may wake in the middle of the night thinking about the same unresolved conversation. You may feel dehydrated, mentally foggy, or unusually sensitive to noise, conflict, and overstimulation. The nervous system can become reactive when the soul is processing release. That is why you must care for your body as part of this spiritual crossing. Hydration matters. Rest matters. Slowing your pace matters. Regulating your breathing matters. The bridge is not only emotional, it is physical. Your body has been carrying what your mouth did not say, what your boundaries did not stop, and what your heart kept trying to forgive before it was ready. Pay attention to your chest, your throat, your stomach, your jaw. These are often the places where this kind of emotional truth gathers. Heaviness in the chest can signal grief leaving the body. Throat tension can signal unsaid truth. Stomach discomfort can signal that your intuition has been trying to reject what your mind kept rationalizing. Jaw tightness can reveal the strain of self-control, silence, and swallowed anger. This is not a time to override your signals. It is a time to honor them. The body is not interrupting your spiritual process. The body is participating in it. But the relationships and communication section of this transit is where everything becomes impossible to fake. Because Venus and Saturn do not just ask how you feel. They ask what is being built through behavior. Words may lose their power right now if actions do not match. Promises may feel empty if they are not backed by consistency. Excuses may suddenly sound thinner than they used to. Someone's distance may tell you more than their affection. Someone's avoidance may reveal more than their apology. Someone's emotional maturity, or lack of it, will become harder to ignore. You are being shown who can hold honest conversation, who disappears when truth enters the room, who turns your pain into your problem, who actually has the capacity to love in a stable way. If you have been receiving mixed signals, stop looking only at the moments that kept hope alive. Look at the pattern. Saturn rules pattern. What repeats matters. What remains unstable matters. What never gets clarified matters. A karmic bond often survives by feeding on ambiguity. It stays alive because you are always almost getting what you need. Almost having the conversation, almost reaching peace, almost arriving at commitment. But almost is not a future. Almost is a bridge that was never meant to become your permanent address. This transit is showing you the difference between emotional depth and emotional availability. One without the other will wound you. For those in relationships, this energy can bring a defining moment. Not always a breakup, but a reality check. The bridge either strengthens through honesty, accountability, and mature commitment, or it reveals its cracks. A serious conversation may need to happen. The truth about effort, timing, support, boundaries, or emotional presence may rise to the surface. This is not a moment for passive hoping. It is a moment for clean seeing. If the relationship is real, truth will not destroy it. Truth will clarify it. But if the connection depends on denial, vagueness, or one person doing all the emotional labor, Saturn will make that impossible to ignore. For those dealing with an ex and an and-off connection, a situationship, or a bond that lingers in the psyche even without physical presence, this transit is especially potent. You may feel the final strand beginning to loosen. The psychic attachment may feel exposed. The old longing may return for one last wave. It's not because you are meant to go back, but because the soul often revisits the wound before it closes the contract. Do not mistake resurfacing emotion for a sign to reopen the bridge. Sometimes the final ache is simply the body and spirit agreeing to let go at the same time. So what should you do now? First, stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from your confusion. That alone will change your life. Second, observe rather than react. Let patterns speak. Let silence reveal. Let consistency or inconsistency answer what words have failed to answer. Third, have one honest conversation if the situation truly calls for it. But do not use conversation as a way to beg for emotional certainty from someone committed to uncertainty. Fourth, journal what this connection has actually taught you. Not just how it felt at its highest point, but what it trained you to tolerate. Fifth, protect your money, your sleep, your attention, and your nervous system. Emotional endings are easier to survive when your foundation is cared for. And sixth, do not romanticize bridges. Bless them. Learn from them. Cross them. But do not build your home in a place. It's designed only for passage. There is also a spiritual instruction here that many people resist. Do not rush to fill the empty space this ending creates. The release itself is sacred. The silence after heartbreak can become a temple if you stop treating it like a punishment. Something stronger is being built in you now: discernment, self-trust, emotional gravity. The ability to recognize love that feels safe instead of merely intense. The ability to choose peace over chemistry when chemistry has repeatedly led you into suffering. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming clear. Now let us speak directly to the 3 zodiac signs most affected by this karmic shift. Taurus. This energy reaches you at a deep and private level, and you may feel it in ways you cannot easily explain to others. Because Venus is your ruling planet, anything involving Venus and Saturn touches your heart. Your worth, your attachments, and your relationship to emotional security with unusual intensity. You may be realizing that you stayed too long in a bond, because part of you believed loyalty could eventually turn into mutual devotion. You hoped that if you stayed steady enough, patient enough, loving enough, the bridge would become solid beneath both of you. But you are being shown now that steadiness cannot replace reciprocity. Your lesson is not to love less. It is to stop confusing your capacity to endure with proof that something is right for you. This may be the week you finally understand that walking away is not a failure of love. It is the dignity of love returning to yourself. And Taurus, there is another layer. You may be grieving not only the person, but the version of yourself who kept waiting. The softer self. The hopeful self. The self who kept translating inconsistency into hidden depth. Be gentle with that part of you. She was trying to believe in love. He was trying to keep faith alive. But now, a stronger self is emerging. One who knows that stability is not boring. It is sacred. One who knows that being chosen clearly is not too much to ask. One who knows that love should not leave your nervous system in constant confusion. Your bridge is ending, Taurus, because your future requires solid ground. Libra, this transit may feel almost surgical, because Venus also rules you, and Saturn is now pressing on the structures of your emotional life. You may feel as though the universe is drawing a hard line through patterns you once tried to keep beautiful. Libra often wants harmony so badly that you can stay too long in spaces that are quietly draining you. All because you hoped balance could be restored if you just stayed gracious enough, understanding enough, fair enough. But the karmic shift for you now is about recognizing when fairness has turned one-sided. You are being shown where you have overcompromised with people who did not meet you halfway. You are being shown where peacekeeping became self-abandonment. For some Libras, this will show up as a sharp realization during a conversation. For others, it will come through a silence that tells the truth more clearly than words ever did. The bridge in your life may involve someone you still love, someone you still understand, someone you may even still forgive. But forgiveness is not the same as future. Understanding is not the same as alignment. And your soul is done trying to turn emotional imbalance into romantic destiny. There is a stronger version of love coming for you. But it cannot arrive while you are still negotiating with what repeatedly weakens your center. Let the bridge serve its purpose. Let beauty leave with dignity when it must. That too is grace. Pisces, this karmic ending may feel the most mystical and the most painful. Because your sin often loves with a kind of soul-level permeability that makes separation feel spiritual, not just emotional. You may have felt this bond as fate, as intuition, as unfinished poetry in the heart. You may have carried someone inside your inner world long after the external connection became inconsistent, distant, or difficult. But Saturn has been teaching Pisces a hard and holy lesson. Love without boundaries becomes suffering. Devotion without structure becomes depletion. Compassion without discernment becomes self-loss. This transit is sharpening that truth now. For you, Pisces, the bridge may have been made of dreams, signs, telepathy, memories, or spiritual meaning. And that can make release especially complex. Because part of you may still feel the connection, even while knowing it is no longer right to remain inside it. But that is exactly why the karmic lesson is so important. You are not being asked to deny the bond. You are being asked to stop surrendering your future to it. The soul can honor what was real without continuing what has become heavy. Your liberation comes when you realize that closure does not always require mutual agreement. Sometimes closure begins the moment you stop feeding the attachment with your imagination. The bridge is ending because your spirit needs shore, not suspension. For all three of these signs, and for anyone listening who feels this transit in their bones, the deepest truth is this. The ending of a karmic bond is not the end of your ability to love. It is the end of a version of love that asked you to survive on uncertainty. It is the end of a chapter where emotional heaviness became familiar enough to mistake for home. It is the end of waiting for people to become who they repeatedly show you they are not ready to become. And in that ending, something fierce and holy is returned to you. Your standards, your energy, your peace, your future, your capacity to recognize what nourishes rather than depletes. So do not fear the grief if it rises. Grief is not always a sign you are making the wrong choice. Often grief is simply the sound of attachment loosening from the places it once wrapped around your identity. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself cry. Let yourself rest. Let yourself say, "This mattered, and it still cannot come with me." That sentence alone can free a life. The universe is not punishing you with this transit. It is protecting you from spending another season on a bridge that was only meant to carry you out of an old version of yourself. And once you understand that, the whole experience changes. You stop asking, "Why is this ending?" And you begin asking, "What is this release making room for?" You stop clinging to the last echo of the contract, and you begin listening for the first sound of your next chapter approaching. Since yesterday, Venus and Saturn have begun their work. The truth is already moving. The contract is already weakening. The bridge is already shaking. And if you feel the heaviness, do not panic. It may be the exact sensation of your soul stepping out of what once bound it. Walk with dignity now. Walk with honesty. Walk with self-respect. Walk with the understanding that some endings are not losses. They are spiritual permissions. They are the universe clearing the path so that the love meant for your future no longer has to compete with the weight of what has already expired. And this is where everything changes. Not because someone finally says the perfect words. Not because the past returns in a new costume. But because you do, clearer, stronger, less willing to betray your own knowing. More able to recognize the difference between a bond and a burden. More able to choose what is stable, mutual, and clean. The bridge did its work. Now cross it. And do not look back as though the lesson was your final destination. It was not. It was only the passage that taught your heart how to find its way home.